Welcome everyone to another episode of Just Saying Football, Jack and Sean. I'm your host Sean Gann, alongside my partner Jack Nicholas. We're here to bring you news, notes, weekly updates, and game analysis of your favorite teams from around the league. Now the chance, go check out our website, justsayingfootball.com. Follow us on Instagram at JustSayingNoGWJS for article and video updates. And don't forget to get us in your ears on Spotify. And check out our bets on the Discord at Just Saying Football. Week 15 has come and gone, my friend. We are now into Week 16. Fantasy playoffs in full swing. You knocked me out in one league. Your roommate knocked me out in another league. That was tough. You're still in it. It's good vibes for you.
Definitely feeling good. I got 3 leagues left. This is the Final Four time. We got 3 weeks left in the regular season after this, including this week. So we got a lot of playoff clinching scenarios in real-life football as well. But, yeah, feeling great in fantasy. It was a good week for a lot of players that we're going to highlight for sure.
Yep, absolutely. And speaking of playoffs, that gets into our news and notes, which segues perfectly. Vikings locked in their playoff spot with the Packers win over the Seahawks. They can get the number 1 seed if they win out for the rest of the season. Texans locked in the AFC South and have a home playoff game, which is great for them. Patrick Mahomes injured his ankle, and his status remains uncertain. That's something to monitor. We're going to get into that a little bit later. David Montgomery tore his MCL and is out for the rest of the year. Carlton Davis is also out for the rest of the year. That's huge for their secondary. They now have 16 guys on the injured reserve for them defensively. Jalen Waddle injured his leg. He was rolled up on. That's something to monitor this week. And Alvin Kamara injured his groin and has a high chance to miss this week. So that's also something to keep in mind for fantasy owners, as well as for the Saints, who are currently running on basically all backups at the moment. They don't even have Taysom Hill. Let's jump right into it. It's our blowout category, and it is a AFC North showdown when the Cleveland Browns make their way to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. Bengals are favoring this by -7.5, over under here at 47. And just so everybody knows, Jameis Winston has been benched. What are your thoughts going into this one?
Yeah, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, love him. It's a short week, so not a lot of time for them to prepare. I'm expecting a big game out of Chase Brown, who's just had some amazing weeks in the last few weeks as the Bengals. They're kind of short-sighted on where they can get into the playoffs. But, give me the Bengals this week straight up. I expect a big game from Jamar Chase and Chase Brown for sure. Shout out to T. Higgins last week for getting that touchdown. He is definitely going to make some money in free agency this year.
Yep, couldn't agree with you more. Maybe he's going to make his way to the Giants. Who knows? Maybe a little Malik Neighbors, T. Higgins, who knows? But I'm going to lock in the Bengals as well. I think it's kind of easy to pick them right now. They're still playing great offensively. The Browns don't know what they're going to be doing offensively, and I think this Bengals defense can rise to the occasion. We saw what they did last week against the Titans. Easy to lock them in, and also Jamar Chase playing for that huge contract where he's going to try to surpass Justin Jefferson, and that's very possible right now because he's looking like he's probably going to win the Triple Crown. Moving this right along, we have the New England Patriots making their way to Buffalo to take on the Bills. Bills are favoring this one by -14.5, over under here at 46.5. And I don't think it's even an argument that the Bills are going to win this one. I can't see how the Patriots can walk away with this. Josh Allen MVP -900. What do you think the Patriots can have a chance?
Yeah, I don't know if they do. This is the biggest spread of the weekend. The Bills expected to win by 2 touchdowns. I think they can. We've seen them battle with some of the biggest Giants in the league this year. We saw them go up against the Lions last week, the Rams. This is, I think, an easy game for Josh Allen to just continue his MVP, -900 on his MVP odds. He's had 5 rushing touchdowns in the last 2 games. You got to give a shout out to him. Khalil Shakir, pretty much anybody that's not named Amari Cooper is getting involved in this offense. So, the Bills are just getting it done, and the Patriots are an easy matchup for them this week.
Yep, couldn't agree with you more, as we're both going to lock in the Bills on that one. My microphone as well. All right, move this right along. Monday Night Football. New Orleans Saints make their way to Green Bay to take on the Packers. Packers favor this one -13.5, over under here 42.5. And as we mentioned, pretty much the Saints are all on their backups or third-string guys. What are your thoughts going into this one?
Yeah, it's tough. They flexed the Bengals game out of Thursday to replace it with the Denver Chargers game, and now you got this game that could have totally been flexed. But who would have seen the Saints down here, almost 2 touchdowns to not be favored by? It's pretty bad. Josh Jacobs right now, lifeblood of the Packers, 9 touchdowns in the last 5 weeks. He has been safe in fantasy, safe in betting, everything like that. So I think that the Packers just, on the long week, run it through Josh Jacobs again. I love Green Bay in this game.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing all the secondary guys. This is their first team offense. They're still playing for that playoff spot at the moment. They're most likely going to get it if they win this week. Then Obviously, I think they're one of the dark horse NFC guys. You don't want to play along with the Rams. These are two teams that, like, when you see them in the playoffs, you're a little bit worried because of what they can do offensively and defensively. I expect them to win big in Green Bay. I think they'll have the entire fan base there. I'm excited for it. Moving this right along, we have the New York Giants making their way to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. Falcons are favored in this one by -9.5. Over under here, 41.5. Kirk Cousins finally found the end zone. But still, a lot of question marks surrounding him and whether or not they should bring in Michael Penix Jr. Raheem Morris, as of right now, has not officially said Kirk Cousins is going to remain the starter, but hasn't said that Michael Penix Jr. is going to be the starter.
Yeah, and it's weird because Atlanta does have the sixth best offense passing per game, but you also have Kirk Cousins with 16 interceptions over these first couple of games. This first season here, this is the most he's ever thrown by far at this point in the season. But they're still favored by 10 here. They're at home. The Giants are traveling. They have been, unfortunately, one of the worst teams this year. Malik Neighbors got a great touchdown last week, but that was the first passing touchdown the Giants have had since November 3rd, and it's December 17th at the time of this recording. So just give me the Falcons this year, and the Giants just keep getting closer to that number one pick.
Yep, hopefully the Giants can get up there. As we'll get close to that draft season. We'll get more and more speculative about who the Giants are going to be drafting, who Jack wants on his team. But I'm locking in the Falcons right now. I think they're able to not necessarily play great, but play just well enough to win games. So I'm going to lock in this one. Like you said, the Giants just not really playing the best football that we've ever seen from them. Let's see if they can pick it up next season as they begin to rebuild slowly. Moving this right along, Arizona Cardinals making their way to Carolina to take on the Panthers. Arizona's favored this by -4.5, over under here 46.5. Now, the Panthers were favored last week, and they fell up short. You think that now, not being favored, they can finally get the win?
No, I think it's Arizona's game. They are right now still in that race for the NFC West, and they're getting a favorable matchup here with only a few weeks left in the season. This is a blessing for them. They are traveling, but I will say, unbelievable. What Arizona's done. James Conner last week. He has been on an absolute tear. He had 2 touchdowns last week, 200 yards over the last 2 games, 9 catches. So Kyler's just looking to James Conner to make plays. I think that he can do that easily this week against Carolina, and this is going to be a more of a blowout game than people think. That's why it's here.
I couldn't agree with you more. A little bit of NFL history just happened last week when Trey McBride has 89 receptions and still has yet to score a receiving touchdown. Or touchdown at all this season. Set the record for most receptions with that one. Hopefully he can break it this weekend. I think, honestly, if you're a betting man, because I am, I'm going to throw a few bucks on it. I think this could be the weekend against a very weak Carolina defense. This could be kind of that time where they get going with Trey McBride. He finds the end zone. So I'm going to take that as well, but I'm locking in Arizona. I don't think that the Panthers really have much going on for them right now. Bryce Young, though, has been playing a little bit better, as we've kind of mentioned throughout the last few weeks. Keeping this moving along, Detroit Lions making their way to Chicago to take on the Bears. Lions favored this by -6.5, over under here 48. Everybody saw Monday Night Football against the Vikings. Caleb Williams just looked absolutely destroyed. I was loving it. He did not look like he was having a fun time. He looked like, someone said on Twitter, he looked like a kid who doesn't know the Madden buttons.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what he's doing. That is what it looked like.
Just running around back there. You see the Lions are 12-2, but they're in a race with your Vikings and the Packers, as we mentioned. Bears have not won since that Hail Mary, and I do not think that they're going to get some miracle trap game this weekend against the Lions. It is of note that David Montgomery now looking like he's out for the rest of at least the regular season. And then you got the Lions defense, who has 16 different players injured with major injuries, and you just have to think to yourself, is the Lions defense going to be a problem for them? I don't think it will be in this game, but that'll be something we got to watch.
Yeah, we saw last week was just Josh Allen doing what Josh Allen does. And that offense behind Jared Goff still put up 5 touchdowns. The Amon-Ra, St. Brown 65-yard bomb. Despite all the injuries, despite everything, I don't think that you can just count out the Lions whatsoever. I think this is an easy win for them against the Bears. I do expect the run game to look a little bit different than what we've been seeing throughout the entire season with Sonic and Knuckles, because Knuckles isn't going to be there. So a lot of this, it's going to be a lot of Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm very interested to see what it's going to look like. I want to see this defense start attacking Caleb Williams and whatnot, because they kind of still need to show the NFL that they are the big dogs right now. Now everybody's like, without David Montgomery. I'm not worried for them. I still think that they're They should lock up this number 1 seed. They should beat the Vikings in Week 18 at home. But this will be a curious one. This is a divisional game. These games are all things you have to worry about. It would have been 13-7 at one point during the Vikings game if not for the guy hadn't checked in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're always talking about the what-ifs in football. So these small little mistakes changes the course of games. So let's see what happens this week. They're going to be on the road. Obviously, the whole Jared Goff can't play in outdoor weather has not lived up to anybody's expectations.
Yeah.
Moving this into our meh category, Tampa Bay Buccaneers making their way to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. Tampa Bay is favored in this one by -3.5. Over under here 48.5. Mike Evans had another big weekend last week. Do you think he can get to 1,000, my friend? Do you think he can do it?
Yeah, I mean, he's at 749 right now, so you're looking at 250 over 3 games. I mean, he's going to have at least a couple of 75s just to make you feel really good going into that last week. And I think Tampa Bay, they're one of the teams that probably won't be sitting starters Week 18. They're only 1 game ahead of Atlanta, who has the Giants this week, as we mentioned. I think this is a favorable matchup for Baker Mayfield and the 4th highest scoring offense in the league right now. They're scoring about 28 points a game. I think that they can outpace Dallas easily on the road this weekend. I kind of love the Bucs this weekend. And Mike Evans, anytime touchdown every week. Every time.
Just a little bit ago, it was the Falcons and the NFC South on lock. Now, despite the 4-1 in the division, which is crucial, and the fact they got to 500, which is big, Tampa Bay, man, if they can beat Dallas, or think that they can, I think they're looking like the odds favorite to host a playoff game.
It could be awesome.
Incredible. That could be awesome. We love that. I'm locking in Tampa Bay. I just don't think Dallas has enough. I'm not worried about the whole Micah Parsons stuff or anything like that. But their team just isn't really there all the way. We talked about it a lot. I'm taking Tampa Bay. This offense looks great. Moving this right along. Tennessee Titans make their way to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. Colts fair this way, -3.5. Over under here, 42.5. Now, it is important to note that Will Levis has been benched again. Mason Rudolph will begin the start. He had 3 interceptions last week. Will Levis. I'm locking in the Colts. I don't have much to say about this game at all. There's nothing really there fantasy-wise outside of Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, honestly, Jonathan Taylor dropping that thing right before the end zone last week. That's something to note. Honestly, Anthony Richardson looked horrible again last week in a favorable matchup. We're going to talk a little bit about the Houston Texans in a little while, who, if they win this weekend, could win this division. So there's no division stakes in this game. I keep all your money away from it and any player in it except for JT, like Sean said. But give me Indy if I got to take the bearer of 2 bads.
Yep, I couldn't agree with you more.
Lesser of 2 evils.
Exactly. Moving this right along into another not-so-great game. We got the Jacksonville Jaguars making their way to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. Raiders for this one, -1.5. Over-under here of 39.5. Max Crosby's also out for the season. That's important to note. I'm going with the Jags. It just feels like they have the better players, the better roster at the moment. They should win.
Yeah, I don't know. They're Vegas is favored right now, and I think that the Jags could kind of get this win. Brian Thomas Jr. last week had an absolute game. You got to give it to him as a rookie. Nobody was really talking about him before the season, and Jacksonville had not high expectations. But the injuries to Vegas just make me not want to pick him. And if the Jags are getting offered as a dog, take him.
Couldn't agree with you more. All right, moving this right along, we have the Los Angeles Rams making their way to New York to take on the Jets. The Rams are favored in this one by only 3 with an over-under here of 46.5. Now, Cooper Kupp, 0 points in fantasy. Do you think he can get 1 reception this week?
Oh, he'll definitely get 1. I think that it's safe to take his reception total this week. I don't know what his yardage is going to look like. I don't know if something's going on. But I will say that guy, he gets targets. So when we're looking at it, I think that it could be a huge game this week for Cooper Kupp. You could even take a little ladder on him up to like 80 yards. He's going to have a good game. And I think that the best part about it is, he has complimentary guys. The Rams, they have more than one way to beat you. We saw last week that Devontae Adams is the Jets' way to beat you. And I think the Rams can, kind of go on the road and play outside in December and get this done with Kyron Williams and Cooper Kupp.
Yep, I couldn't agree with you more. I think this is, obviously maybe a little biased here because obviously Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson are on my team, so I think that they're the best duo. But the Rams, Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, 1A, 1B. You know what I mean? Like what arguing? It doesn't really matter. Take who you want, where you want. It's your pick of the litter because these guys can go off at any moment. We've seen the Jets just completely regress. This defense for the Rams does show up. Their rookies out of FSU are the guys that are making all the big plays, as we love to see. I love what the Rams are doing. They currently have the NFC West. Another win only solidifies what they're able to do, especially if somehow Arizona loses on the road to the Panthers. You know what I mean? And what we've seen from the 49ers. So for me, it's you're not just playing for the win right now. You're playing because you can secure a home playoff. Imagine you're a team that needs to go on the road to LA. Not to say that their fan base is going to be there or be crazy. They're still building that. But that team plays so well together and as a group that I wouldn't want to go on the road against them and play this team. So I'm locking in the Rams, Jets. It's just not your season. Moving this right along. San Francisco 49ers making their way to Miami to take on the Dolphins. Dolphins are favored this one, -1.5. Over under here, 44.5. Now, Mike McDaniel, former offensive coordinator with Kyle Shanahan, going up against his mentor-mentee battle. You think he can get the win?
I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I think that San Francisco, there's a lot of things that point to them pulling this one out, and I wouldn't be shocked if, as an underdog, Kyle Shanahan pulls this off. But I will say, another team that has just been plagued by injuries, the 49ers. Miami, they're really kind of, they need a game like this to stay at all in this AFC playoff hunt that's looking like a crazy race right now. So if they want this win, I think they do get it at home this week. But I don't love it. If everybody else is healthy on the Niners, of course I'd want to pick the Niners. But this is late season. It's still going to be nice weather. No bad weather affecting here. But there's something about it that tells me Miami could win. I'm expecting a big day from Chan.
Yep, I couldn't agree with you more. It's just the consistent dump-off passes. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
So many receptions no matter what. He didn't get the end zone, but he still had 14.5 points, which is just great considering he rushed for less than 50 yards. I'm also going to lock in the Dolphins. I couldn't agree with you more. Everything you just said. The 49ers getting banged up. It just seems like Devondre Campbell quit in the middle of the game. They had to clear up his locker room. Lots seems to be going on. I'm not firing Kyle Shanahan. I'm not trading Kyle Shanahan. I'm not firing John Lynch. I just think it's like one of those seasons. It's time to reevaluate the roster. They'll make the right moves. I think you're going to figure out where the right price point is for Brock Purdy. I think it's looking a little bit more team-friendly, which is great for them, not $60 million. So that's all good, but I'm liking the Dolphins. Moving this into our games of the week, we have the Denver Broncos making their way to Los Angeles to take on the Chargers. Chargers favored this by -3 with an over-under here of 42.5. Now, this is a Thursday night football game, AFC West matchup. Both teams can be in the playoffs, so this is a huge one. What are your thoughts going into this one?
Yeah, it's it's a crazy matchup here. I think that they're both gunning right for the playoffs, like you said. It's funny to me that LA is favored by 3. I feel like they got a little exposed last week versus the Tampa Bay Bucks. I think they can do the same. The Broncos, they've been playing really well this year and keeping divisional games tight. I've been believing in Bo Nix and Cortland Sutton and what they're doing. I still don't know how they're winning all these games without a run game, but ever since J.K. Dobbins went out, you can see the Chargers have been impacted by that. Obviously, Ladd McConkey keeps doing what he's doing. But, now it's on a short week. I'd expect, Denver to be able to try to put something together with their run game. And I think it'll be a close game, but I like Denver as underdogs this week.
I'm gonna take the Chargers. I think what we saw from Bo Nix was a little bit of some rookie mistakes, some things like that. But it was at home. They still found a way to win, but that was because of the defense. And this is a great Broncos defense, but I'm looking at the Chargers, and I think that this Chargers defense is just as good. And the way that I'm seeing it is that I think that Justin Herbert and Ladd McConkey can move this ball consistently down the field a little bit better than Bo Nix. Justin Herbert's been in the NFL a little bit longer, knows the system a little bit longer, is having this great relationship. They're all both these teams are blowing out expectations. I absolutely love it. And when you're looking at the standings right now and you're looking at the AFC West, the Chiefs just clinched 9-5 Broncos, 8-6 Chargers. This is huge in their division and everything. I'm liking what the Chargers can do. I believe in Harbaugh. I'm locking them in this one. Now, we have a Saturday game on this one. Houston Texans making their way to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. Chiefs are favoring this one -2.5 and over-under here of 41.5. Now, everybody's probably wondering, is Patrick Mahomes going to play? We have no idea. Truthfully, from the Chiefs, you can afford to drop a game here. You don't have the tiebreaker against the Bills, but you have the 2-game lead. I'm not against maybe sitting Mahomes a week if it means having him for the long term in the playoffs.
Yeah, if you have, we've kind of seen this the last few years where he's had ankle injuries to deal with in late December. It kind of seems like it's something that's nagging him, but I will say, Carson Wentz will be a viable backup at home, in this kind of scenario. The Texans have got to get Joe Mixon going, man. We've seen these weeks where he's kind of gone under, and, they killed the parlay, obviously, last week, the big play, but I will say it's also just the fact that he had 23 last week on 12 carries, 20 for 100 the week before that, and then 14 for 22 last 3 weeks ago. So you got 2 games in out of 3 where he's got under 30 yards, and you're saying to yourself, how can you trust the Texans to keep the clock like that? I think that they have to do that this week against the Chiefs. I think there's going to be a lot of 3-and-outs for the Chiefs. So yeah, give me the Texans as dogs. It's a big underdog week, I'll tell you that.
I couldn't agree with you more on this. I mean, I'm looking at this, and you have Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson, who have the most sacks by the duo in the NFL at 21, with 12 and 9 respectively. Derek Stingley's had a 2-interception game. They were playing lights out last week. I think this defense looks fantastic.
And C.J. Stroud wants Derek Stingley to play on offensive snaps now, apparently.
I can't imagine another two-way player until we see where Travis Hunter gets drafted.
Travis Hunter now, yeah.
We got to see. First, let's figure this out before we get into Derek Stingley playing wide receiver. They still got Tank Dell. They still got John Mechie. They got my guy Dalton Schultz. All right, they still got a lot of weapons in this. Joe Mixon. Let's not forget what they can do. But everything you said, I think, is absolutely right. I think the Chiefs right now, they kind of know they can lose the game. I think they're going to rely on the run a lot. I do think that they'll take their deep shots. We've seen it with Andy Reid over and over again. They're at home still, of course, so they'll have the crowd behind them. They're not really putting up points. So even if they put up 17 points, 14 points, that's in the realm of what they've been scoring consistently. So
and there are only 4 teams that haven't scored 30 this year, and the Chiefs are one of them. Just putting that out there. And the Giants are one of them too, but that's what it is. They're not scoring a lot of points this year.
They're not. So I'm liking the Texans in this one. Hopefully it's not a repeat of what we saw a few years ago in the playoffs where it was like 28-7, and then all of a sudden it was like 33-28 by the third quarter. I don't think that's the case. But moving this right along, AFC North showdown, Pittsburgh Steelers making their way to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. Ravens are favored in this one, -6.5 with an over-under here of 44.5. Now, Steelers have already locked up their playoff position, but the Ravens have not. Do you think that the Steelers can get the sweep against them?
I do think that the Steelers can get the sweep against them this year. Honestly, that's a great way to start it. The Ravens are favored by 6.5, but I will say that it is a big deal when you're looking at where the Steelers are right now. If they win this game, it is such a huge step for them winning the AFC North. Taking this against the Ravens right now would help them in so many ways. Like you mentioned, Sean, huge thing this week is going to be basically that, if they can move and get that home field advantage, then if they got to play the Ravens again, forget about it. Nobody's going to be down in Pittsburgh there. And I've been saying it, Tomlin as a road dog, if George Pickens is back, I expect him, Freiermuth, they're going to have to get creative in this one since the Ravens already got film on them.
I do think what happened last week against the Eagles was a lot of good play calling by the Eagles offensively, but what you were missing from the Steelers offense that was so clear, and they even mentioned on the broadcast, was George Pickens. You could see without their true wide receiver one, this offense looked a little bit different. You know what I mean? They couldn't necessarily get that deep ball consistently. Obviously, the Eagles are playing much better in the secondary. The way that I'm looking at this, I just think that we got breaking news live right now. I can see Jack writing it. Michael Penix Jr. is currently the starting quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons, but they're playing the Giants, so I'm still locking in the Falcons for this one.
I know. They were in our blowout category, but we have been told by a good friend of the show that Michael Penix will be starting. So that, I will say that the line could shift, but I do not expect the Giants to win still. Probably a good matchup for him right there. But did not want to break the news too bad right there in between the Steelers Ravens. Sean, keep going if you'd like.
No, had to. I mean, that's Michael Penix, my guy. That's freaking huge. I can't believe it. I'm looking at this one, though, and I do think that the Ravens, they're going to have the home field advantage. They're going to be relying a lot more on Derrick Henry once again. I mean, last week he had 10 carries for 67 yards. Hurt me in fantasy, but they didn't need to run the ball because of the way that Lamar Jackson was playing, running and passing with 5 touchdowns. But I do think that it's going to be the ball. I think this is the Ravens' game to win. They're going to get the big win behind the entire home crowd. I'm locking them in for this one. Moving this right along into an NFC East showdown, when the Philadelphia Eagles make their way to Washington to take on the Commanders. Eagles are favored by -3.5. Over under here 45.5. Eagles get the huge win last week. Commanders got the win last week. How are you feeling in this one? You think the Eagles can get another win on the road?
I do, honestly. I think that the Eagles are pretty much a well-oiled machine at this point. We've seen them now on a 10-game win streak. Week 4, I got to pull up the tape. I was talking big bad about Jalen Hurts and his turnovers, but he's only got 3 turnovers throughout the entire 10-game win streak. You got Saquon Barkley, who's got 1,600 rushing yards on the year. It almost seems impossible what they've been able to do with getting him in the end zone. And the Commanders, I would have a lot of faith in them. However, if the Eagles win this, they win the NFC East, so they're going to treat this like a playoff game. A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts look like they're friends again, and the Commanders almost blew a lead to the Saints. So I got to give it to the Eagles this week on the road. Not too much travel, division game. It's perfect for them.
Yep, I think everything you said is absolutely correct in the way that you're right. This is a playoff game for them because they win this, they lock in the division, they still have a chance to get the number 1 seed, but most importantly, they get a home playoff game. That's what you want. You want that round 1 home playoff game. That you want to start the momentum going with that, and they can absolutely do that this weekend. They get the win. You're absolutely right. We saw a lot of great passing yards from them last week with A.J. Brown and with Devontae Smith. But I do expect a lot more Saquon Barkley to get back involved in this. He wasn't really needed last week, but he was also kind of shut down at times. But I do expect him to be a huge component of this one. I like everything they've been doing. I just mentioned them a little bit ago. That secondary has been playing great. They've really improved. All these rookies and these second-year guys that they're able to get in the draft has been everything that they've needed for this defense. And their offense is clicking. There's nothing slowing down this offense at the moment. I think the only teams that they have to worry about in the NFC are really the Lions, the 49ers, the Packers, and the Vikings. Like that, those are the teams, and really any of them can beat each other, it seems like, any given week. Just the way things have been going this season. But I'm liking everything the Eagles are doing. I think this is a win for them. They win this, you just said it. It's a playoff game. It's home field advantage is everything. Moving this right along into our last game of the week. It's the Minnesota Vikings making their way to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. Vikings are favored in this one -3.5 and an over-under here of 42.5. And that is back-to-back national primetime spots for the Vikings. I love it. Means I don't need to watch it on YouTube. That's a nice change of pace. How are you feeling this one? Can my Vikings get the win on the road?
Yeah, they can. I think that last week we saw a lot of what makes the Vikings great. It looked like sometimes they, had the game. They scored 30 points again. Basically, is what I'm saying. They just continue to run the score up. They have so many ways that they can do it. T.J. Hawkinson definitely last week was when I looked at him and I go, wow, he's finally back. Jackson Smith-Njigba for Seahawks, I think, could have a great game this week. I think all the attention is going to be on DK, and that's what they've been able to do and take advantage of. But the Vikings defense is a really good run defense, so it could be a really tough week for Charbonnet. Kenneth Walker still, isn't back. So, give me the Vikings on the road. They're a complete team, and they're trying to get this win so that they can stay in this NFC race for the number 1 seed.
Yep, the Vikings control their destiny right now. If all 3 games they win, they lock in their playoff spot. So it's all up to them right now. I'm liking everything that Minnesota can do in this game, what we've seen the last few weeks out of Sam Darnold, out of this defense. 2 guys that really have stood out for the Vikings have been Andrew Van Ginkel and Jonathan Grenard, and those guys were 2 free agent signings. Grenard has 11 sacks. Van Ginkel has 9 sacks and 2 interceptions for touchdowns. They've been playing lights out defensively, like you said. They're getting after the quarterback. They're stopping the run. Stephon Gilmore is going to be back in this one. So that should help out their secondary, which does at times bleed a lot of passing yards. So keep that in mind. Like you mentioned, Jackson Smith-Njigba has been playing electric. DK Metcalf is a stud. You can't sleep on Tyler Lockett despite the age, and they do have a good run game. It's very interesting to see what happens with Geno Smith and the knee injury, if they're able to get after him early. Is that going to affect him? Is Sam Howell going to need to come in? These kinds of things. Is Geno Smith even going to be healthy? He's healthy right now.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going to happen? So these are all things to monitor, but I think that the Vikings, you control your destiny. You're going on the road. You just got a huge divisional win in the whiteout. Then you play the Packers. Then you play the Lions. Win this game on the road. Get back home to Minnesota. Play the Packers. Get another win. Then you go to Detroit, and that's when the fun begins. So,
yeah.
I'm liking everything that Minnesota can do. I'm locking them in for this one. And I think that's all the time that we have, my guy. Unless you have anything else, but
Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah, thank you guys for listening. Make sure to set your lineups right this week. Get the Thursday night players out of your flex spot. Give yourself that flexibility in your fantasy playoffs. Thank you guys for checking us out. Just Saying Football here on YouTube as well as on Spotify. Make sure to get us in your ears. Check us out for all our updates, for all our posts. Just Saying with no G, WJS, Just Saying Bets, and Just Saying Football on the Discord. Check us out there. Thank you guys so much for listening.
Enjoy.